So this is the same presentation I'm going to do next week in New York Test Leadership Congress. It's called Taming Your Dragon. And how many here are cartoon fan? I am a big one. Oh, I see quite a few hands here, right? I'm pretty sure a lot of you have seen this movie called How to Train Your Dragon, and they keep on releasing new version of it, right? So this is about my journey last 12 years, and especially last 3 companies I joined, and I integrated a brand new team there very successfully, and what exactly I did, what exactly I learned, and how my team helped me achieve that goal. Little bit about the agenda of the night. So I'm just gonna give a brief intro about me and my team. I'm gonna tell you what are the key factors I learned in my previous companies or in my whole career. Then I'm gonna show you GoodRx. Like, we have done something amazing in the last 9 months, and a big kudos goes to my team, without whom I'm nothing. So, and also my boss is here and making me nervous. Yes, and then I'm going to show you some code snippets and walk you through a live demo that how long it takes for us to run 73 test cases, which is GoodRx. So this is basically me. That's my husband in the background. Fun fact, I have dated only one person in my whole life, and he's my husband. And that's my 3-year-old daughter. She's super naughty, so I was born in Calcutta and I did my studying in Bangalore and Long Beach, California. I love to work out. I'm basically a workout freak, and my team has to listen to my workout stories every day. So if you're applying here, be careful. And I love to travel, so I've traveled 5 continents out of 7. This is my rockstar team. Some of them are missing because Joanna is very new. She joined just 10th of June, and Mariano was sick that day, so he couldn't be in this picture. But how I have my team set up here is pretty unique. So I have a SJ team who supports all the QA analysts and all the projects, and make sure they are creating the tools that require for our release QA to be successful. Then I have a release QA team. Now there are 4 people here, including Joanna, and they support the releases, the new features, right, with the help of my SJ team. And then I have an offshore team in Mumbai, 3 people who work when we sleep and give us the manual automation effort pretty quickly. So why did I give the name Taming Your Dragon? Because last 3 companies I worked, they had one thing in common. They were afraid to integrate with the QA team. So they tried. Somehow they had issues with it, but I was lucky that they took a second chance with me. And when they took a second chance, like, I was able to prove that QA is not bottleneck, and some of the things that we did to make sure that all those last 3 companies, we are able to build a team from scratch and prove that QA can be very helpful in release cycle. So this is a slide I found on LinkedIn. So I know a lot of people are new. So last time at Thrive Market when I met, a lot of people asked me that I want to be in QA, and so I want to just show you QA, what QA means actually, what a test engineer means. It's just not verifying your requirement. It's a lot of this. It's about communication, about design, about modeling, about planning, about being empathical, so that you are talking to a person and developer and not making him mad, like about a lot of this stuff that we do in a day-to-day job. So if you want to be in this field, you have to be really passionate about almost all of these things, and then you will be really, really successful. I just want to go back and tell you guys about some key factors that I found in my whole career. So what was the main key factors when I adopted few of the strategies? So the first one was size. I worked for a company which was just 10 people, and I was the only QA, and my whole team was either offshore or crowdsourced. Then there was a startup. They didn't have any money problem, but they were afraid to integrate to QA, and they took a chance with me. And then there was big enterprises where They have big team, big budget, and nothing is an issue. You can get everything to work on, right? The next factor is what kind of product it is. So I find like there are some products which can tolerate bugs. Like suppose Facebook, they didn't have a team for the longest, right? But then there was a second company, Heal. That's a doctor house call company. And just think about a situation if a doctor came to you and he's trying to access a patient chart and he's not able to open it, or he's not able to prescribe medication, right? How bad that will be. Can we have that bug on production? Completely no. So also like GoodRx, we have such a big volume. Even one bug costs us thousands of dollars. So we have to be really careful testing and saying yes to any new feature, right? So product and volume makes a lot of difference when you strategize what you want to do in your team. The next few factors are like test environment. So in my whole career, I have joined various companies where they didn't have any environment. So they said, oh, we test on dev and then we push to production. And my first thing was, okay, we need a test environment to test and do deterministic testing or even automation, right? Next is a very, very big thing to be successful is team culture. QA cannot be catch-all. It's the whole team who needs to test. Your developer needs to test, your product needs to test, your whole team needs to support in each phases so that your team is successful. So whenever you join a company or if you're leading a company, make sure that your company embraces the QA team with wholeheartedly, and don't think that, okay, we will be throwing over the fence and QA gonna catch everything. That doesn't happen. That's not realistic. And next set is right resource and right tools. Like if you just hire a QA analyst or even a QA engineer and force him to test manually and write test, he or she won't be able to do that. So have like realistic expectations and make sure you're helping them to choose the right resources. This is a very interesting quote that I believe in. It says, the road to success and road to failure is same. And I truly believe that's true, and it's up to us how we choose, like what path we choose, right? So during our experience, I came across 3-stage success model that I did in last 3 companies, and those 3 steps were learn from failure, plan, POC and implementation, and scale. And I'm going to walk you through what this exactly 3 steps means. So first one was learning from failure. So it's very important when you join a company, you just, first few days you just learn, like what were their bottleneck, what they expected, what were their goal, why they failed, what are the ratio, did they have only one person and they thought it's a unicorn and he's gonna find everything, and they will be okay with that? Did they have like fragile regression suite? Did they even have test hooks? Are they using this modern techniques like visual validation, automation? Do they have right infrastructure? So jotting down this point helped me immensely strategize like what we can do, how we can set our goal, how we can do POCs, and how we can be successful. So again, when coming to POC and implementation, I see a lot of people do POCs with 2 test cases. They will just choose the whatever is like in market and really trending. They're gonna choose that tool and they're gonna say, okay, I wrote 2 test cases in that. It's awesome. Let's just buy it. Doesn't work like that. Like have an expectation where you are actually running at least 20 tests to make sure you're covering the edge cases and you're making sure that tool gonna support you. One more thing was community tech support. How many of you know about a tool called Monkey Talk? One person said yes. I was expecting none. So in 2012, when I was working for a company here called TrueCar, I thought, okay, I'll do some mobile automation, and I chose that tool. And that was the horrible decision I could ever make, because there were no community around it, there were no tech support. That will eventually did not succeed, but like you have to be very cautious. Like what are the customer support? What are the community around it? Can you go online and find when you are blocked coding using that tool, right? Also time and cost, like can you afford that tool when you expand? And also how long does it take? Like what are the bottlenecks on performance? Does it take too long to start the real devices? Does it take too long when you're using like manual testing tools? So couple of food of thought there. The next was scaling. So I think a lot of people know here the testing pyramid, right? And so we had a huge number of unit tests in GoodRx. Then we had to do a lot of manual tests in the beginning, maybe first 2 months. And then we created an awesome automation infrastructure. And we were doing just a little bit of visual regression test in the beginning. But now what we do is our visual regression test is like really big, and it catches all the issues we have, and then we have only our release QA on the top, only looking for new features and just test planning and test casing it. So we are saving a lot of time there. So we have UI automated test, which is continuous, and visual regression test, and we are spending less time doing manual QA. So I'm just going to walk you through case study of GoodRx. This is our homepage, and it changes every day because we have our ACO team, we have our conversion team, and they're running a lot of A/B testings to make sure we are optimizing all the time. So this is how the timeline looks last 9 months. We had like only one QA before me who joined June 18, Saleh. He's still here, he lost me. Then they decided to hire me, and that happened during October. From October to December, we scaled 300%. We had one senior estate, and then we hired QA analysts, and both of them were rock star, and we just like took a rocket ship from there. By the end of December 2018, we had full P0, P1 automated. We had our automation test integrated in our pipeline. So today when any developer pushes, and we release 12 to 15 times a day. So it's like 75 times a week. It's a huge volume to us at least, and in my career. So, and our fully automated test along with visual regression helps us making sure that those releases are solid. Then we scaled again 300% in next 2 months, and we hired more QA analysts and estate, and now we have fully covered regression, which is around 350 tests, all data driven. So if I count the data, it will be in thousands, and then fully covered edge cases. So when you look at our site, you might think, oh, it's just like searching for a drug and then seeing our coupons, right? But it's not that easy. There are like 1,000 different types of drugs, and the pricing page changes for each drug, and it's very, very important that we are showing the right notices, right data, because it's very regulated industry, right? So it has to be visually also perfect. It also have to be showing top notch. Like if a user sees $3 on our site and then goes and sees something else, that can be a bad experience too, right? And like right now, we actually do automated automation first releases. So it's like last few couple of big projects, we had the automation ready because when the developer start coding the front end, we already give them the test hooks, and we start writing our tests. By the time they are done and our manual QA is done, our tests are ready, and we run automation tests and we release really successfully. This is our tech stack, which is awesome. It's Python. We have BDD, so our QA analysts can write the test in plain English. We use browser stack for our test runner, Applitools for visual regression. We have Jenkins and Travis, CI/CD, and we have Jira and TestRel for bug management and test case management. And I just want to touch one thing here is we have stabilization pipeline. So any test we write, it does not just make it to master. It actually goes through a Travis run against all our existing tests to make sure we are not introducing any breaking tests. So our tests are really, really solid. So this is our CI/CD. So we run cross-browser, cross-device coverage, and we write it in BDD. We do visual validation, and our tests are 2.5 minutes long. every time you run. These are again some more statistics. So we have 2.5K visual regression tests, some 300 data-driven regression tests. We actually tested 49 unique browser combination, and we have run 1 million tests in BrowserStack last 9 months. Actually more than that. This is actually a little old, like a month old. That's a screenshot from BrowserStack, which shows like last 6 months we have run 837,160 tests, which is huge. So this is how our pipeline works. We have hourly runs of P1, P0, and then we have cross-browser testing every time a developer check in that pipeline works. We also have nightly runs. So our whole regression suite runs nightly. And it actually sometimes finds very interesting bug because we have a whole component called pricing, where our pricing refreshes every night. And we find really unique ones when we come in the morning saying that why some test failed, and because somebody changed pricing in the back end and it made our test fail. Vahan going to cover most of the framework. I'm just going to talk about a little bit of integration. So we have integrated with here. We have integrated with Spinnaker pipeline. We have Jenkins here. This is our BrowserStack image. Here you can see that how my Azure team is using the API. It actually tells what the failure is. It's telling you that the membership pricing should not be shown in North Carolina, this zip code, but it's actually showing, so which is awesome. We also have Slack integration, so every time somebody is pushing from our backend, we get notified that our test ran successfully or it failed. This is actually a slide from a report SauceLab has recently published. They worked with some topmost companies like Visa and Walmart, and they came up with 4 different categories where they think how a company is doing with automation, like how many times they run, what kind of cross-browser they have, how they use their parallel nodes. And we have only 4 people team here from the estate side, and we are actually in the 6.2% category where we have matched all 4 criteria of excellence. So our test run less than 2 minutes. We have all coverage on all these browsers. Here they're showing that most of the people have automation on Chrome. Our automation runs on every browser we support. Here also they're saying that only 8.1% companies are using real mobile devices. All our test runs on real mobile devices for mobile web. So super proud of that. And they already covered everything, so I'm not gonna bore you with my talk here. So this is gonna scheme, but even I have really interesting bugs to show. And I take a guilty pleasure capturing this thing. So the right hand side is Amazon, and they have here something called Now, and they have no clue this is in production. This is my actual account, and I actually reached out to their VP of engineering, say what is happening here, and they're like, okay, we're gonna fix it. And the left hand side is Macy's, and you see how the error message is in the behind apply, right? And then here, this is GoodRx. Somehow some code snippets show up. So without visual regression testing, our normal regression will not show. These are some more pictures from our GoodRx test suite. So you see this dots showed up here. We cannot have a test other than visual regression for this kind of failure. Here, there is an extra 0 on each pricing row. And here, the whole page became blank. So we are lucky enough to catch them lower environment because of Happy. And here we actually have some icon which is missing. So pretty good bugs. I'm gonna hand it over to Vahan, and he's gonna walk you through how he created the awesome framework along with my team.
All right, thanks Priyanka, and hi everybody. Thanks for showing up. And so we have a couple of code snippets that we want to show you and kind of like go over our framework in a very high level. This is like, we're not going to like explain why or how we're doing it. We're just going to show what we're doing. So as with any good automation framework, you need to have a good browser-based class, which will handle all your browser-related actions. For example, one can be go to, refresh the browser, go back, go forward, maximize window, minimize window. So essentially all the actions that you're going to be performing on a browser, it's always good to have a class that isolates that, and you know where these functions and methods are and what they exactly do. And you can utilize them throughout your test. And of course, we use page object model as a design pattern for our framework. And this is an example page, which extends a base page class. We're going to get to that. So essentially, like, this is how we initialize our elements. These are, we call them lazy initialization. So essentially, these elements are not yet ready to be acted upon. We just define some fields for these elements, and whenever we have to act upon these elements, then we will wait for the element to be present, whether it's a button, we're going to wait for it to be enabled before we try to perform a click on it. So essentially all the plumbing work will happen behind the scene. This is the element wrapper class. So if I go back here, you will see that our elements are of type element. And this is something that we have developed. And this is what it does, for example. This is one of the methods of that element class. So essentially, we're overriding all of the Selenium methods. Wait for element, click, send key, is visible, is present. And these are our wrappers for Selenium methods. And what this allows us to do is that we're able to control the flow and perform like correct logging, whatever we need to do, we can do here. And if anything changes anywhere, we only have to make that change and support it inside here, and throughout our test, everything will continue to work. And this is the ApplyTools check window wrapper. So Angie showed this, and I definitely recommend everybody that whenever you're interfacing with or working with any third-party SDKs, always have your wrappers. Because we recently updated ApplyTools SDK from version 3.16, Python SDK, to version 4, which they've implemented a new API, a new functions which they call Fluent API. And if we did not have this in place, and I actually called a check window throughout my test, then it would be a nightmare. We would have to update it maybe like 150 places. But since we have this wrapper method in place that handles all the things, all the settings that we set for ApplyTools, for example, we have specific settings that we set whenever it's a mobile device. So for mobile devices, as Angie mentioned, we cannot do like a full screen screenshot because it has the navigation bar and time, and when it tries to do a full screen, it stitches those as well. So it doesn't really look correct. So for that reason, when we come to this validation and we see that we have an iOS device, we say, you know what, don't try to do a full screen with iOS device. And another one is we're adding elements to ignore by default. For example, our website has some ads and they change and we don't have control over it. And we want to make sure that they are displayed, but we don't want to disable them throughout the test. So what we do is whenever we don't need them, like this, so we call it a loop-see. So we try to be a little smart with the eyes and all the open eyes and loop-sees. So we have a parameter that our function takes, which is ignore ads. So if you're passing it, yes, ignore ads, then we're going to set that up here, and coded ignore region will be added to ApplyTools check window verification. So again, kind of like the takeaway from this is, if you're working with third-party libraries, tools, always have your own wrappers. Don't. I know the examples on their websites, in their documentation is always like, okay, just browser dot, open this URL, everything hard-coded, and then you do like this. But always have wrappers when you're doing an actual implementation, because SDKs change, features will be added, features will be removed, and you want to be able to, you want your framework to be maintainable, and this is how you assure it. And the same thing goes for the web elements that we have wrappers for the pages, everything. So wrap everything. Okay, so that's kind of the snippets that we had, but I can show you guys a video of our actual CI process that we run from Jenkins, and or I can show a real one.
We're gonna do it live.
All right, let's do it. This is
We can do some here too.
oh, okay.
Or just log into Zoom. Do you have Zoom?
Just do it from here. And while Priyanka sets that up, so in our CI, for example, whenever there's a front-end code that is being pushed, we have a different set of tests that are going to be run. For example, front-end code, we're going to run on all of our supported browsers. So we're going to run on 4 desktop browsers and Android and iOS. If it's a back-end push, we're going to run only on 2 platforms, which is one desktop, Chrome, and Android. So yeah. So let's kind of walk them through this. So essentially, this is our Jenkins job that our pipeline uses to trigger jobs when there's a new deployment happening. We have a base URL that we can specify, whether it's a raw environment or production environment, the number of parallel runs that we want to run, and also what are the tags. And essentially, what tags are, these are how we group the tests. So we say we want to run the P0 and P1 tests, which are our critical path, very important business critical tests and functionality. If any of these fail, we cannot move forward, we cannot go live. That will have a direct impact to the business. So this is, and we have a regression test suite, which we're grouping under P2.
We also have a way to...
Yeah, we can also say whether we want to run the visual validations alongside, because the visual validations are embedded inside our whole automation. As again, Angie mentioned, we are doing multiple verifications. We're checking elements, actual existence in the DOM, in addition to visual, and we're mixing and matching them as we see in the feed. So, yeah.
So just gonna run it.
And so what this will do, we use Browser Stack as our kind of Selenium hub. So it's gonna run all these tests in Browser Stack.
Where is the console?
So click on. So let's go to Browser Stack. So once the jobs start executing, so what Jenkins is doing right now is allocating the virtual machine where it's going to run the tests and inside our environment, and then it's going to trigger, it's going to install all the Python dependencies and everything, and then it's going to trigger the job. And you can see here it goes, it's already up to 98 parallel executions that it's doing, and you can see tests running and passing very fast. And try to keep your tests small, like have your test to validate something small and simple, and don't try to complicate it. You know, for example, I'm gonna log in, I'm gonna validate that I'm logged in, I'm gonna change my email, I'm gonna validate that email was changed, and don't change it that way. Just have small pieces because those are more maintainable and more stable.
So we are almost done. 22
So yeah, about 80 tests have been complete. Did you also have visual validation? Okay. And what we also like about BDD style tests is that if we zoom in, you can actually see the test name, and it actually makes a lot of sense because it's in plain English. It's not some Java method name with underscores and or camel keys, so it makes things much easier to kind of like read and see what this specific test is actually doing.
Talk about X, it's retry.
Oh yeah, we also have a retry mechanism. So for example, you see that there's like a little X appeared in Browser Stack. for this specific test. So what that means is that the first run of this test failed. So we're going to retry. We're going to retry 2 times. So in total, we're going to run 3 times before declaring a test failed.
What are the devices?
Yeah, so, and we, as we've already mentioned, we run in multiple different devices, configurations, and browsers. So, for example, for mobile devices, we have iOS, Android, and we have iPhone XR, iPhone X, and iPhone 8. So, we also had to create a capability generator class which will handle our capabilities when we request a specific device from browser stack. So, and we had to embed that as part of the retry mechanism. So whenever a test fails on an iPhone 8, we don't want to retry it on iPhone 10 or iPhone XR. We want to retry it on the same exact device that it failed the first time. So we have that implemented as well. So yeah, do you guys have any questions on, like, feel free, technical questions, more high-level questions, anything, feel free. I'll try my best to answer or clarify.
And if your question is interesting enough, I'm going to give goodies.
Actually, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
He wants the goodies.
Yeah.
What's the goodie? So you mentioned that you do retry 3 times
Right.
before you declare it fails.
Mhm.
So what if
He didn't even answer the question yet.
yeah,
He's special.
what if
Yeah.
it fails 1 time and passes 2 times? Are you declaring this is
No, that's not a failure. So the way we think about it, that's actually a very good question. So the way to think about it is, how do you identify a bug when you manually test it? So you test it once, you're like, oops, this is not right. Let me try it again. You're trying it again, and assuming you're retrying twice, you're like, okay, I'm going to try on another browser. And if you're not able to reproduce on the last second tries, you're not going to declare it as a bug or a failure. It's like a one-off weird thing that happened. So that's how we go about it. So we're going to pass the test on the first success. So if it fails the very first run and then the second run passes, we're not going to run the 3rd time.
okay? So it's passed.
Yeah, so we're not going to run up to 3 and then average it out. So as long as we have a success, we're going to stop there.
That's interesting because some, I mean, specifically flaky tests, they
Mhm.
fail, right? But what if I saw like different thing, right?
Right.
When bugs was not able to reproduce, but at the same time we were not able to catch it. So
We actually thought about that, and Priyanka had a great idea about it, how to kind of like aggregate and store all the tests so that we can look and see which tests are failing more as time goes by. So if, for example, it'll be easier to identify a flaky test and there might be something good in it, maybe it's a real bug that doesn't happen or only happens in a certain condition, so that we can look into more. But at this point we don't have that, but we definitely thought about it, and we're going to probably plan it out end of this quarter and implement something like that, where we're going to store all the results of all of our runs and then do some aggregation and reporting on it.
okay, cool. Thank you.
Cool. Sure.
Someone.
Yeah.
On the same note, like when you retry,
Mhm.
does it wait for like same interval or you change the interval for the retry?
There is no wait.
Oh, no wait.
So yeah, the moment the test fails, it's going to trigger the next one right after it. Yeah.
So, I mean, there's like a real life scenario that I experienced recently.
Mhm.
Like when we get like 500 or 402 requests, it's sometimes the server is too busy to respond.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's like essentially like a synthetic weight that you might put into. We don't have that issue. We haven't faced that. So all of our lower environments are pretty robust environments. Like we don't get like weight limited or any like. So we're not doing performance testing. Yeah. So we run up to 100 nodes at the same time, and we didn't see any difference. whatsoever. It's a good question. Thank you.
Yes, Angie.
Yes.
In addition to the parallelization you're talking about, are there other techniques you've used to accomplish the speed in which your tests are running?
Yes. No thread sleep at all. No time sleep if you're in Python. And we in the team have this like understanding that if we ever see like thread sleep or time sleep in our PRs, we better have a good explanation of why we have that. So everything, all of our wait for elements, clicks, everything is dynamic. So the moment the element appears, it's going to start acting upon it. There is no static wait at all anywhere.
Data QA.
Yes, so and then that's a very good question. Thanks, Angie. So one important thing is if you guys look here, we have data QA attributes in our elements. So this is something that we've implemented ourselves. So essentially what this is an attribute of this element that is used for automation specifically, nothing else. So we know this will not change because of functionality, because of feature being added, because of styling or anything like that. So this is automation attribute that only we are using, and we know what the name is, and we have a good relationship with our front-end team. We're very collaborative about this, and this is actually how you assure stability. So you cannot have an absolute X path of an element as a locator and expect it to work. It's going to work 2 days, the third day or fourth day, it's definitely going to fail. One day it's going to fail for sure.
Also, we have a lot of A/B testing running in our production, so our buttons and colors, everything changes every day, every hour. So it's impossible for us to write a stable test if we don't have this. So when we start designing a new product, this is embedded in our process where front-end developer will add this in their code. Yes.
Are you guys using like real data, or are you marking your data from Microsoft?
So if we're running in production, it's real data. In QA or like lower environment, depending on what type of environments, we have some lower environments that also use some of production data. But depending on environment, we don't actually mock anything as part of our tests.
Also, pricing are same in all environments.
Yeah. So the pricing
We are
is
a
coming
pricing
from the same
company. Our
source.
pricing are same in all
But like
environments.
in this case, your UI tests, they're like not like dependent from the microservice. Like let's say if there's some issues on the API layer, right? So they're like kind of affecting your UI tests, and your UI may be good, but it's maybe like issue on the.
Yes, we are not there yet. I know what you're saying. Like if like the relationship between
Data changes how we.
Yeah, right now we have started our like endeavor with UI, and we're going to expand to API or native application automation. So we're going to cover the whole 9 yards. But at this point we're there, and ideally at our previous company we had the framework was designed in a way that, for example, you had a login scenario, it would not actually log in through the UI. It will call the login API, it will use the cookies and set inside the session and refresh the page, and voila, you logged in. So that's kind of like how you speed up your tests as well. That's another way. But at this point, we are not there yet. Oh. Yes?
What do you guys use for reporting?
We use browser stack. So yes. So that's it. So we use browser stack because it has the video. We're setting the reason of the failure through browser stack APIs, as Priyanka showed. So it has a status and reason, the failure reason. So we know why the test failed in our framework. So we're posting to that API with that specific reason. But again, that is something that we're gonna look into as part of recording all the tests that we ran, and like seeing which tests are flaky, and like seeing flakiness over time and things like that. So that's, but at this time, this is our reporting.
You know, we cannot collect console errors during running our test in browser stack. Did you guys
That Jenkins. We have that in Jenkins. Jenkins job, yes.
from browser stack?
No, not browser stack.
visual validation.
Yeah, but when you run your test in browser stack,
Right.
can you collect console errors
Um,
if you have it there?
I'm not sure.
I think
how
we can enable a capability called network.logs, and they have different capabilities. We can enable them and we can capture the log. It happened like we used to see a lot of 500 in one of our pricing page, and we were not able to reproduce it manually.
So I think this is what it means, right?
Yeah.
So console.
Right. So they do provide console logs. So this is the way. So you just go and crawl that URL, and they're going to show you exactly what happened.
Thank you.
One more question. What do you guys use for BDD?
Behave. Behave.
Oh, okay. So it's not behave.
Yes. Behave. Behave is kind of like what Cucumber is to Java. Behave is to Python, essentially.
Why you didn't choose a robot framework?
I don't know. We wanted to kind of like have full control of the framework from the very smallest and littlest thing to the very top. So we implemented the framework, everything ourselves, the way we handle elements, the way we look for things, the way we start the test before scenario, after scenario, etc. Yes.
So this is probably not an automation
Mhm.
specific question, but how does your team manage like device management testing? Like how do you identify
Like the real devices or the devices in browser stack?
real device?
Real devices, we have a locker. We put all of our real devices.
How do you determine what devices you get which? Because
We go by
everybody
analytics.
gets that locker, just
Right,
starts filling up real
but
quick.
we decide our coverage based on analytics. So we look at GA and we see what our top users are in which devices, which browser, and based on that, also depends on page to page. So we have awesome data team here. I think there are 40 people strong, and they have like awesome analytics. So anything we need to make decision on, we heavily dependent on that.
So what kind of level of parallelization do you guys use? Is it like on a class level or a method level?
Thread level.
Thread level.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? If you guys don't ask, then I'm gonna ask you guys question on my side. Yes. These are pretty awesome models from
Yes.
Microsoft.
I'd seen earlier in this slide deck you were talking about Travis. Is it Travis?
Right.
Yes, we can show you here as well. So you see here, there's Travis run. So that means somebody from my team was pushing code, and it actually ran through 350 tests, 6 different browsers, making sure it's not affecting any of our existing test cases. So unless these are green, it will not make it to master.